I'm Lucas Anders, and this is my capstone presentation. So before I tell you guys about my capstone and what I actually ended up doing, let me just share with you some of my initial ideas and experiences going in. So whenever I began brainstorming through what I wanted to do for my capstone, I knew that I had a passion for community service and also that I wanted to do something kind of leadership oriented. So I wanted to combine both of those things into a capstone that was kind of unique, that also involved working with people. So when taking all of that into consideration, I decided it would be a good idea to plug into my church and volunteer as a camp counselor at a kids camp over the summer. I had the whole idea approved by Miss New, and the next day I was all packed up and ready to go to camp. Once I got to camp, however, they basically told me that they didn't have anything for me to do. They had all the counselors where they needed to be. I had come in late, and they didn't have anything for me to do. I figured I could make it into my capstone if I wanted to. They assigned me to washing dishes, but when thinking back to what I wanted to accomplish, leadership-oriented, community service, working with people, and unique, it just didn't check all those different boxes. But it's amazing the way that God works, because right as I was leaving camp, I got a call from Cindy Cox, who's my mentor on this project. And she said to me, Lucas, I was talking with your dad, and he tells me that you have this capstone project for senior year, and you're wanting to do something community service with a leadership aspect to it, and I think I have a great opportunity for you. So that was like the best thing I could have heard at that moment. But before I move on, let me just tell you a little bit about my mentor, Cindy Cox. Cindy's an incredible person. I've known her basically my whole life. But she was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer in 2012 and was given a very short estimation on how much longer she would live. I think she was given 4 months, a very rare form of cancer. But she fought and fought and obviously far surpassed what all the doctors told her she would. And after all that fighting, she felt as though she had been blessed so much by God, and it was her duty to pour into her community and give back. And the way that she did that was getting plugged into Random Acts of Flowers. And maybe some of you have heard of Random Acts of Flowers, but for those of you who haven't, Random Acts of Flowers is a nonprofit headquartered here in Knoxville that takes flowers, recycles them, and then turns them into functional bouquets that they then donate to funeral homes, wedding venues, and most importantly, hospitals all over the country. And I say most importantly hospitals because of my kind of co-mentor's story, Larson J. Larson was in a near-fatal accident years ago and had to be in the hospital for several months and several surgeries. But he credited his recovery both emotionally and physically to all the people that would bring him flower arrangements. But he noticed as he left all these people filling these rooms in the hospital, but there were no flowers. And it bothered him so much that he started Random Acts of Flowers, and that's exactly what they do today. They deliver flowers to hospital rooms all over the country. So I share so much of the backstory because of how meaningful it was to me going into the project, but now let me just share with you my experience and what I actually did at Random Acts of Flowers. So like I said before, I talked to Cindy as I was leaving camp, and we ended up meeting up later, and she said that at Random Acts of Flowers, they were starting a renovations project on their headquarters, and they needed someone to come on and just basically manage the whole thing and oversee everything. And that ended up being my role. That was exactly what I did. The first thing that I did was I created an Excel spreadsheet that included each and everything that needed to be accomplished on the project, from plumbing to painting to electric, construction. It was all on that spreadsheet, and each person involved in the project had a copy, and if they had any questions about what needed to be accomplished, they would come talk to me. If they had any questions, they would come talk to me. But as you can imagine, the funds for a nonprofit are pretty limited. So a lot of what I did also was shop around for used like tables, lights, flower racks, and just things at a discounted price because a nonprofit isn't really willing or able to go out and spend a lot of money on a new project, as you'd imagine. So that's a lot of what I did was shop around. But luckily, the construction company we were working with was willing to donate a lot of the needed materials, so that made my job there a lot easier. But the biggest thing that I did was I was the communicator kind of between Cindy and everybody else involved in the project to get to set up a good time for them to come in and get their job done that worked best for them and for Random Acts of Flowers. And I would say that was probably the most challenging part of the project for me, because it was hard to get a good time for them to come in before our deadlines and also make it work for them. And there was just a lot of different moving parts. But I would say the biggest lesson that I learned from this project was the value of communication and how valuable it is to communicate thoroughly with people whenever things need to get done. And so once I had basically got everything set in stone that I could for the renovations project, I didn't have my full 40 hours. I had about 25 hours. So to get the rest of my hours, I did what any other volunteer does that comes into Random Acts of Flowers. I delivered flowers. And this middle picture really captures that. They would load me up with flowers, and I would just go from place to place and deliver flowers to the weddings, to the funerals, to homes, and to hospitals. And I would say this was probably my favorite part of the whole project, because as cheesy as this sounds, it's really rewarding to see the smiles on people's faces whenever you deliver them flowers. And it made all the hard work before seem really worth it, and it really captured that community service aspect that I wanted from the project. So future plans, I can't put enough emphasis on the question mark, because I will be going to one of these schools. I don't know which one yet. I need to figure it out. I will figure it out within the next month, but there's where I'll be going, I'm not sure, but what I'll be doing is studying business management and finance. I think that kind of in a rudimentary way, this project with Random Acts of Flowers is related to business management. I learned through this project that my strengths are that I'm good at managing things and I love to work with people. And so the project was really helpful for me to figure that out and help me verify that yes, business management is a good path for me moving forward. But I was very grateful that Cindy gave me the opportunity to manage the project because she had all the management that she needed to get it done. She had all the people she needed, and she knew that they would get it done well. But she kind of took a risk on me, and I was appreciative of her for doing that. And it also encouraged me to work harder to get the job done well. So that's the end of my presentation.